Namaskaram. In Mahabharatam, we are on the story of. We completed the story of Gerald Karu. There were two Gerald Karus. One was a sage, and another was Vasuki's sister. And when Vasuki heard that a male child born of Gerald Karu, sage Gerald Karu, in his sister would save the serpents from death in the Sarpayajna of Janamejaya. And so Vasuki sent some serpents in search of the sage Gerald Karu. That is where we left. And now we come to the Sarpayajna, and that is related to King Pareekshit, who was the grandson of Arjuna and son of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was one of the very valiant fighters in Mahabharata war, and he fought one of the most memorable wars in which he was alone fighting against all the Kaurava leaders like Drona, Karna, Kripa, and so many of them. And he fought. They couldn't stand his onslaught. And after a long time fighting alone against an army, he became tired and he was killed. At that time, his wife Uttara was pregnant with a male child. And there is a story in Mahabharata much later after the war when Drona's son Ashwathama sent an arrow with the mantra Apandavaya. That means let all the Pandavas be killed. And that went to Uttara's womb, Uttara straight away, and was going around it looking to destroy the child in her womb. It is said that Krishna sent his Sudarshana Chakra, which protected Uttara by going round. So Ashwathama's arrow couldn't penetrate. And finally it was returned. The arrow went back. And Uttara duly delivered a male child who was named Pareekshit. And it is that Pareekshit we are talking about now. Pareekshit, when he grew up, he became the king, he became the emperor, and he was a famous emperor too. And he was very fond of hunting, like his great-grandfather Pandu. And one day Pareekshit was chasing a deer. He sent an arrow. The arrow hit the deer, but the deer ran away and went out of sight. And Pareekshit was after it to recover it, but he ran a long while through the forest. Still he couldn't find it. Then he found a hermitage, and there was a sage in deep meditation there. Pareekshit went and asked the sage about the deer, but he didn't reply. Pareekshit asked again and again, but the sage kept quiet. That was because, first of all, he was in deep meditation, and he was also in Mahabharatam. Mahabharatam means a vow to keep, to remain in silence during that meditation. And Pareekshit didn't know that this was the situation. So he thought the sage was refusing to reply. So he became very wild. He looked around, found a dead snake. So with his bow, he picked up the dead snake and threw it at the sage. The dead serpent, went around the neck of the sage as a garland. And then Pareekshit went back. Sage either didn't know or he didn't bother about it. He continued his meditation. He had a son. The name of the sage was Shamika, and he had a son by name Shringi. Shringi was not there at that time, and after a few days he was coming back. Then he met his friends and he asked about what was happening and all that. Then they jokingly said, "Oh, your father is carrying a dead body on his shoulder." And Shringi was surprised. "What are you saying?" "Oh yeah, truly a dead body." And Shringi went to the hermitage and found his father still in meditation, and true, there was a dead snake around his shoulder. And Shringi became very wild. He reflected and understood that it was the work of King Pareekshit. Then he took some water from his kamandalu, chanted some mantra, and cursed Pareekshit that you will be bitten by serpent Takshaka, and within 7 days you will be bitten and you will die. And that was the curse. And he told his father about this curse. And Shamika, who was a very noble and large-hearted sage, whose quality was forbearance, quality was kshama. So he said, "Look, son, you have done a very wrong, you have made a very wrong curse, very wrong on your part to curse our emperor, even if he has done a mistake. He is the one who protects us, other sages in this forest. Not only that, the entire population of this earth. He is our emperor. And he has done a very good job as a king, protecting us all. So even if he has made a mistake, you shouldn't have cursed him." And then Shamika said, "The minimum I can do is to inform him about it." And then he sent his disciples to King Pareekshit. When Pareekshit heard this, he felt really sorry. First of all, he was sorry for his act. He acted rashly. And when he heard about this curse, he was really very saddened. Then he called his ministers, informed them about this curse, and asked them what could be done best. And they all consulted among themselves and they decided to build a palace on a single pillar, a palace which was almost airtight. Nothing could go into it. And it was well guarded by an army of soldiers. And Pareekshit was made to sit in it. He would come out for these days. This is what Mahabharata says. The same story comes in Mahabhagavata because this story is the basis, starting point for both Bhagavatam and Bharatam. Bhagavata, it only says that he went to the river Ganga in the company of other sages and he wanted to spend the days in hearing the Bhagavata story from Sri Shuka Brahmarshi. Anyway, here that is what Bharata says. And Pareekshit asked sages to come and tell him Purana stories so that he has his last days, because the curse is most likely to come true. At least he could spend his last day in religious acts. And it was the seventh day, and Takshaka was going to this palace to do his duty, because the curse by the sage is like an order to him. He had a duty to perform. And he was in the guise of a Brahmin sage, the guise of a sage. And then he found another sage going in the same direction, and he asked him, where are you going? Then he said his name was Kashyapa. Kashyapa said he was going to King Pareekshit because there was a curse on him that Takshaka would bite him and he'll be dead. And why are you going? Because I want to save him through my power. And Takshaka asked, are you capable of saving someone bitten by Takshaka? And Kashyapa said, yes, certainly, why not? Then let us see. I am Kashyapa. I shall bite this banyan tree which is right in front of us, a fully grown banyan tree with branches and leaves. Let us see your power. And Takshaka bit it. In no time, it was ablaze. It started burning and it was reduced to a heap of ashes. Kashyapa didn't hesitate. He took some water from his kamandulu and sprinkled it on top of the ashes, and the tree started sprouting as before, and in no time it grew to its former size. And Takshaka highly impressed. He said, I shouldn't allow this Kashyapa to go there because my reputation will be tarnished. And he told Kashyapa, sage, please don't go there. What is your aim by saving the king? Kashyapa said, yes, I want money as reward. And Takshaka said, I shall give you much more than what you expect. And Takshaka gave him a lot of valuable gifts and money and sent him back. It is time for us to stop. We shall finish tomorrow. Namaskaram.